Masai Ujiri is ready to strike. As everyone knows, the Raptors are currently reshaping and retooling their roster, and Bruce Brown is the most likely guy to get traded in the offseason. And with the Dallas Mavericks previously showing a ton of interest in Bruce Brown and showing some clear holes in their team during the NBA Finals, with every heartbreak, with every loss that's going down in the biggest stage in the NBA, the more and more heads are turning to a potential Bruce Brown trade with the Dallas Mavericks. So we're going to break down Bruce Brown trade packages to the Dallas Mavericks, the previous reports that have linked Bruce Brown to Dallas and potential trades there with the Toronto Raptors, and whether or not it makes sense for both teams and competing assets, competing packages for the Toronto Raptors that they have against Dallas. So lots of stuff to sink our teeth into now because frankly, the Dallas Mavericks are showing some clear holes in their roster in the NBA Finals in the biggest stage of them all. Obviously, they've been overperforming and I'm frankly rooting for them every single game to beat the Boston Celtics. A Raptors fan, I want the Boston Celtics to lose every single night, every single opportunity, but it doesn't look good right now with the Boston Celtics going up 3-0 in the NBA Finals, and they have some clear holes, especially on the defensive end. I mean, Luka Doncic is getting posted everywhere, just getting blown by and stuff. I think he's dealing with injuries as well, so maybe that's a part of it, but shoring up their defense and bringing in a championship caliber role player makes a ton of sense. Is a guy that's been linked in previous reports. Essentially, we'll break them all down here now. Essentially, Dallas has reportedly had interest in signing Bruce Brown in free agency last summer, as did other teams in the NBA. But Indiana's 2-year, $45 million offer blew everyone out of the water, and that's coming from Mike Scotto. So essentially, the Dallas Mavericks, they tried to go out and get Bruce Brown last summer, but obviously Indiana gave a 1-year, 2-year deal that were substantially high, and the Dallas Mavericks, if it was going to be a free agency offer, they have some other big contracts on their team, which we're going to take a look at, that would have made it tough to sort of happen. So they tried to get him last summer, that wasn't the case, but that wasn't the only time the Dallas Mavericks were linked. Essentially, the Dallas Mavericks and Milwaukee Bucks had popped up as potential spots for Bruce Brown as well. That was following the Pascal Siakam trade that sent Bruce Brown to the Toronto Raptors, so they were linked at this year's trade deadline as well, and the Toronto Raptors were looking for a first-round pick as well as a quality player for Bruce Brown at the NBA trade deadline. So it didn't end up happening, it didn't end up going down, so that deal just wasn't in the cards during the NBA trade deadline, which makes sense. The Dallas Mavericks also made a ton of other moves, and they did help their defense. They did improve on that end of the floor, but obviously doesn't seem like it's enough right now at the NBA Finals, and the asking price for the Toronto Raptors has probably changed just given Bruce Brown's performance over the course of this offseason. So that's how things kind of shook up there. And then also in terms of reports, because obviously Bruce Brown, looking at stats, right, 11 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, his numbers haven't been on the level at least some Raptors fans are hoping for, and then the eye test, the defense did take a step back there. So essentially, even though it looks like we're going to keep him in his contract, because the Raptors have a decision to make in regards to Bruce Brown's contract, they could just let him walk in free agency, but if there's teams like the Dallas Mavericks that are interested in Bruce Brown's services, as there is serious demand for a guy that just a season ago was a key piece on an NBA championship winning squad with the Denver Nuggets. That's a team right there that could fit. And again, the Dallas Mavericks, being in the NBA Finals, might look at Bruce Brown as one of those pieces that could take them to the next level, enhancing their defense, being a cutter for Luka Doncic, and can just get them easy shots when the threes aren't going down for him or the squad. He's not a horrible shooter by any means. Also, I mean, we can bring back up his 3-point stats, right? 33%, not great, but still not at the elite level. And basically, so that's where Bruce Brown is the stats. And given the previous interest and reports, I'm already seeing Marcel Martin down there, doing rap slashing, jump to the dark side as a Dallas Mavericks fan at this point. They're already talking about deals happening, different trades going down. And I saw on our Reddit, Toronto Raptors Reddit, people saying, proposing trades for the Raptors to swoop in. I really like this one. This is coming from it looked like Canadian Goose on Reddit. I apologize, I'm mixing up the name at this point. But Tim Hardaway Jr., an Omax, and a second-round pick for Bruce Brown in a deal. Now, the Raptors' asking price at the trade deadline, where there was serious interest in Bruce Brown, was a first-round pick and a solid player. This one right here for the Dallas Mavericks is a major decrease in that asking price because Tim Hardaway Jr. is a negative sort of asset in terms of vibes. They are done with Tim Hardaway Jr. down there with the Dallas Mavericks at this point. His dad is out there bashing on Luka Doncic, bashing on their organization, out there in the media. So, getting rid of the first round pick only taking a second, taking a bit of a headache off of the Dallas Mavericks sort of plate, but you also get Olivia Maxence. I'm always mixing up his last name. Omax is just his name there, but Canadian prospect that didn't get a ton of run for the Dallas Mavericks and probably won't get a ton of opportunities to develop and blossom in his career playing for Dallas, who are competing for an NBA championship next season as well. This seems like a deal that could be a win-win for both sides, right? The Raptors get a prospect, they get their second round pick because the Raptors don't project right now to be, an upper echelon team. So that could be a high second round pick for next season. And then you take a flyer on Tim Hardaway Jr. that hasn't been great, but is also an expiring that could knock down some shots for you, could maybe put in some buckets. I don't know. I'm pretty interested in a package like that, even if the Dallas Mavericks aren't interested in one of those deals. Bringing in Maxi Kleber might be an interesting fit. Again, bringing in some forwards, especially if a Jakob Poeltl trade happens, depending on whatever sort of goes down with the Raptors this offseason. There's a lot of directions this roster can go, right? Taking off some of the headaches, some of the guys that Dallas Mavericks aren't interested in, getting some draft capital and getting a young prospect that's Canadian as well would be a very, very sort of nice return for a Bruce Brown trade. Again, is it a first-round pick? No, but Omax was a first-round pick a couple years ago, has shown some potential. I would be pretty intrigued for this deal to happen, and frankly, it makes sense to the Dallas Mavericks to want to bring in a dude that won a chip, won an NBA championship, and for guys, I didn't pull up their stats, but Tim Hardaway Jr., 14 points per game, 35%. These stats are a little bit better than the level of play he's been producing out there on the court for the Dallas Mavericks during these playoffs. He's been essentially thrown to the bench. They gave him an opportunity in the NBA Finals, but he's throwing shots off the side of the backboard. Just seems like they're going to part ways this offseason, but Omax is the guy that I'm very intrigued by because the stats aren't really there, but he's 6'8", 21 years old, right? He's can finish around the rim. He's an athletic sort of beast, and the Raptors are going after Canadians right now. There's jump shooting potential. There's just a lot of guys down there in Dallas that really like him as a prospect. So, I don't know. This is a deal I think it would be a pretty cool fit. And again, if the Raptors can redeem Tim Hardaway's value, it could be a cool return for the Toronto Raptors there at this point. But what else? What else could sort of go on? Because, again, in a recent vid, we heard the Toronto Raptors are trying to trade into the draft lottery, and Bruce Brown could be one of those pieces that make that happen. Because looking at the lottery teams, obviously you don't see Dallas here. The Grizzlies, the Rockets are two teams that seem like they could trade out of that mix. The Thunder maybe be interested in a Bruce Brown. Well, basically, I accidentally pulled it up a couple times, but Rockets beat reporter and for The Athletic has come out and said that looking at the free agent market, if I'm the Rockets and looking at a more realistic route, KCP as well as Bruce Brown are circled on my big board. Now, Kelly Iko, the Houston Rockets athletic beat reporter, probably isn't that in tune with the Toronto Raptors right now. There's no world I don't think we let Bruce Brown walk for nothing, given how he was the central piece in that Pascal Siakam trade. But if he looks at the Houston Rockets as a squad that could be a good fit for Bruce Brown, bringing him into the team, bringing in some vets and stuff like that, they do have a lottery pick. They do have one of those selections, top 3 overall. Obviously, the Raptors would have to add something else on top of Bruce Brown. Maybe this draft is just as bad as people saying it is, and the Rockets would be willing to give up the top 3 pick. I seriously doubt that, but maybe I'm over optimistic. But maybe get a weird package going on where you get the 3rd pick and a package centered around Bruce Brown, maybe some other assets. But that's another team that's sort of linked. And again, we've heard that the Rockets are wanting to trade out of the 2024 lottery for future assets. So that's kind of where we're at with Bruce Brown trades going on right now. Frankly, I think with the Dallas Mavericks probably being heartbroken and probably looking to add those fringe players that Bruce Brown exactly has been for a previous championship team, I could see Masai Ujiri really jumping in and striking on the Dallas Mavericks' desperation to bring in a dude like Bruce Brown, get off of Maxi Kleber, get off of Tim Hardaway Jr., and get maybe some interesting prospects or some draft capital back. But let me know what you guys think about that potential trade in the comment section down below. You guys best think get started. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.